Welcome to the Woe Factor cast, where we put the woe in woman. Hello, my name is Holly Hartman, and I'll be your host for today. I'm the CMO and co-founder of the Woe Network. And today we're creating the Woe Factor effect with women who are transforming business. And today you are going to love our guest. We're talking about building a business empire, insights from a multi-business owner, Ryan Daugherty Sharp. And I am so glad. And if I didn't say your name correct, I want you to be able to share it.
Perfect.
But thank you so much for coming on today. And I'd love to hear, you're a multi-business owner. Maybe let us know part of your journey. Who are you? And then how did you become a multi-business owner?
Well, sure, absolutely. I am glad to be here and thank you for having me. It's the first opportunity I've had to be a guest on a podcast, so I'm really excited about it. I guess start with my background. My background is in landscape architecture, my undergrad degree. I moved from that and I worked as a planner for a number of years, touring military bases, doing some of the first databasing of military facilities, and it made the decision to go back to law school. And with the idea that I would, move into planning and zoning law. Well, fast forward to graduation, it was 2008. And if everybody can remember what happened in 2008, there was zero planning and zoning. There was no zoning, nothing was being built. I happened to manage to get out of school in two of the worst economies, which now I'm very grateful for because it really has shaped the opportunities that I've been able to take and take along the way and take advantage of along the way. I worked for between 5 and 6 years in litigation and doing estate planning, kind of getting sucked into lots of different areas of law, but really finding my passion in estate planning. All the while kind of having in the back of my head that my family had, always had an automatic door business. It had been something that I knew eventually I would be a part of in some capacity. And in 2013, I made that decision to, whether or not it was going to be temporary or in what capacity, I wasn't sure, but to move over into one of our family businesses, which is Door Equipment Company. We specialize in automatic doors. So if you walk into a hotel, if you walk into a Target, a Walmart, a hospital ICU ward, that's what we do. We install and service automatic doors throughout Kentucky and Indiana. So I've been a part of that company for about 10 years, serving in various capacities. We also have a sister company of which I'm the majority owner, called Indiana Door. We specialize in pharmaceutical applications of automatic doors, specifically handling most of our work in Indianapolis. And I've really been a part of those businesses, serving in every capacity, I guess, from, if I go back to my childhood, from being the janitor who cleaned the place every week to running the business. I run the business with my brother, Stephen Daugherty. We are second generation in our largest business. Our father originally started it after he left the Marines, when he was going around knocking on people's doors, asking them if they wanted to put peepholes in the doors for a payment. So I've really kind of fallen into a lot of different areas, and I've really found that they have all translated, that all my skill sets have really translated well into, helping run a business. Because as a business owner, I'm sure you're involved in every aspect of that, even if you're not in the weeds. So most recently, I have moved, I've been able to delegate a lot of my responsibilities at the companies, kind of take a higher level look at everything, which allows me to kind of go back into what I'm passionate about, and it's estate planning, working with individuals to really try to form their legacy like we've been able to do with our family companies and protect it. And that's really kind of my latest endeavor. And there's a couple other little businesses here and there, which we can get to, but that gives you a little background of where I'm coming from.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because what it sounds like is it's kind of been a part of your whole life, this entrepreneur spirit, this business aspect, and that family dynamics, and being able to unpack that. And then also you then coming into your own and doing your own business as well, and being able to utilize what you learned from your past and bring it into the present.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely been a full lifetime of entrepreneurship, and having gone through the process of, building a family legacy and trying to make sure we're protecting it and doing succession planning, I really, really came to know how important that, that work was, and and really how lost some people can be as to where to start that process. So that's kind of it. Really going through that ourselves really helped me build that passion.
Yeah, I think that's what happens to a lot of us, especially entrepreneurs that have multiple businesses, is we see the pain point of one business or other clients, and then we're like, oh, there's a need there, and I have the skill, or I want to learn the skill so then I can serve that subset of their need. And it sounds like that kind of brought your passion and also served the need of the community that you serve.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And I think, our business strategy through the automatic door business has always been really identifying the needs of our customer first, rather than just going out and letting our customers know, here's what we can offer. I feel like our best sales staff, the best relationships we've been able to build with customers over the year have been long lasting, because we're really concerned about filling exactly what they need and making sure that we're available regardless of our size, to be able to really understand those needs, instead of making an assumption as to, or, instead of operating kind of as a cookie cutter process. Because really, anyone in here that works in a business or runs a business knows, every customer is different. They need something different, even if, they need a different communication with them as well. So that's really helped me to understand, how to identify those needs, and really understand those pain points, and really want to help people solve them.
Yeah, no, I love that. So if somebody looked at both your businesses and like, they don't really relate, but like you have found that common thread, and that's often when we get to go into what our passion is and what our calling is, we find that common thread and bring it in. Can you tell me about when you had that insight of going, okay, I have been a part of this. I also have this desire to do the estate planning. Can you walk us through maybe what that looked like for you to unpack that?
Yeah, I think, all of the avenues, everything that I'm involved in, from automatic door business to estate planning to our epoxy flooring business, it's all to us about family, and our legacy, and building a family within our businesses with our employees. And it's really all of the companies really have a family collaborative feel. Sorry, there's no business partner bringing lunch. Yes, yeah, exactly. We get lunch together all the time, which is always nice. So back to your question. I think that everybody had a real shift in their business, whether or not it was one direction or the other during the pandemic. It was a very interesting time for us, and for me personally. For us, we were dealing, like every business was dealing with the uncertainty of the pandemic and the economy. We also were dealing with the need for our employees to be in hospital wards, working on stack pressure of ICU doors, making sure, that they're working in the pharmaceutical companies, working for entities that were helping develop and distribute the vaccine. And that was a real time that we were able to come together and gel as a family unit, as a business, and really make changes. And I really saw the importance of what we were doing, and the need from a lot of other businesses to have some assistance in trying to determine how to make that make that work and build that culture within their business and protect their family legacy. For personally, it was an interesting time because I had, very young kids at the time. I'm grateful that they weren't in the NTI battle. They weren't old enough to be in school yet, but it was an interesting time. My son's autistic, and my daughter was, she was 2 at the time. And it really forced me to look at what I wanted out of work and life, a lot more than I'd ever had to, and to really start delegating the things that I could and trying to focus on what I was best at moving forward. So a long answer, but hopefully that.
Oh, I love that. Well, what I heard from you is a lot of how your core values are shaping what your next steps are, how you develop your business, what that looks like. I heard a lot of family. I heard a lot of, creativity of how you're pivoting and support. There's a lot of your values sound very anchored in your businesses that even go moving forward for what your choices are, how you show up with your children. What does that look like? How do we shift to make those things happen? And when we use our values, it really is a compass to guide us where we go next. And sometimes the outside looking in may not go, that doesn't make sense. But to us, when we get anchored in what our values are, we can go, oh no, it actually does make sense. And this is why.
Yeah.
And I really think that to your point, during the pandemic, so many of us had, we were almost forced to stop to look at it and go, what's not working? What do we have to do to shift it? How can we support each other and also build a legacy in a really volatile market right now? What needs can be served, and how can we keep that continuing going? And I love that you didn't get paralyzed by it. You go, okay, what's the next solution?
Yeah, I think the pandemic for me was all about refocusing, slowing down a little bit, taking one step at a time. Working on developing the things that matter most to me and my values, and really looking at working on, for me personally, working on really taking it one day at a time, because we were really forced to, and that's kind of been something that in building, continuing to grow some of the businesses and really branching out and trying to build the law firm. That's something I've really had to rely on, is just the ability to take one day at a time, one step at a time, sometimes one moment at a time. Because as anyone listening knows, if you're dealing with work and employees and family and clients, otherwise it can be overwhelming and you can lose focus on what you're actually trying to accomplish. I guess you can, lose the forest for the trees, if that's the correct saying. But
absolutely. Yeah. You also touched on something about delegation, and many women struggle with delegation for many reasons. And some of it is that we feel like we have to take on the world, and if we delegate, then it drops, and that's not always true. But some of us, that has been our pattern. But you've mentioned that a little bit about delegating. Can you share with me what your experience was as you've been trying to navigate delegating things so you can shift into this other avenue of your business?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the most important things and I will say this was definitely a struggle for me. Me saying that I've been able to delegate has not been something that I just did one day or excelled at necessarily. It was something that I kind of was forced to do if I wanted to accomplish the things and spend the time and quality time with my family that I wanted to. I think the biggest thing for me was really getting, not just finding, but developing the right people to work around me. And that's easier said than done. I mean, especially, this particular market for employers is tough to find employees. But I think investing in quality employees, investing in quality help, being willing to say, I'm not the one that needs to take care of everything. I may not be the best person to take care of this everything with the best skill set, and really trying to refocus on the things that I do best, I think have been the things that have allowed me to be able to be in the position I am now.
I love that. So when you became realizing that you have to delegate in order to grow,
Right.
was there a big moment that allowed you to go, okay, this is the breaking point, this is what I have to do, or was it more gradual for you to realize that?
I think it was gradual for me, and I think it took it actually took me taking, and I don't want to get too off track, but it took me really taking some quality time for myself, because it's so difficult to think about these, long-term plans and think about your core values when you're just trying to get through the day. I think it really, one thing I really had to learn was that, I guess I kind of equate it to if you charge your cell phone at night, you take the time to make sure it's fully charged for the day, it's going to perform better for you, and you're going to have it available to you and the tools you need throughout the next day. And I really needed to do that with myself. And when I started to do that is when I was able to, through a number of things, just simply having time to think, for me personally, for developing my relationship with God and helping in allowing that to help me realize what my core values are. That, I think it was a really gradual thing, but it was once I started to really take the time for myself and to take care of myself, that I was able to move forward. And that's something I worked for LG&E as a law clerk, and there was someone who ran the legal department there at the time. And she had always told me, make sure you don't miss doctor's appointments. You don't miss the things you need for yourself. You take care of yourself, and everything else you'll be able to take care of everything else. And that's so easy to just hear and slough off and try to get to the next thing. But that's kind of the lengthy moment that I was able to actually start moving forward.
No, I love that. I think it's really important because so many women that are in businesses, they're solopreneur or even just a business professional, we will go to burnout, and then we try to create when we're already burnt out. And that's not the time to create. The time is to rest. And then in our rest is where we can be creative and come up with solutions and be able to really make a big impact. But it's counterintuitive to a lot of what we've learned. And a lot of what our programming is, just professionally and in the world, is no, you don't slow down, you do the grind and all of that, but we're missing the creative element that actually moves us forward if we don't take that time. So I'm really glad that you shared that as part of your experience, and what great advice. But as you saw, until the time is right, until we almost have to, that's when we hear that advice. But she planted a seed to go, oh, she's giving us permission to do it.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer, even more so now, that you'll pick back up on those lessons that you've learned. They'll become real to you. You'll be able to incorporate them when the time is right. There's never a perfect time to start a business, just like there's never a perfect time to have a kid. There's some times that you're just not ready. There's some, poorer times too, but you're never, I believe that those lessons you learn will come back up when it's the right time for them. You.
Absolutely. No, I love that. So let's go into what your sweet spot is now, where you're wanting to move and grow, and what inspired you to really start to develop this side of your business.
Well, I think the estate planning law firm, I really, again, having gone through even just the estate planning process with the family, it became very evident to me how much people don't know about estate planning, how many misconceptions there are out there, and how important how important the communication with your attorney is. There's all kinds of online will makers and out there, and that can be very enticing, and you're saving money. But what a lot of people are really missing out on is having a real conversation with an attorney who tries to understand what your business is, what your family is like, what your values are, and how to encompass them in an estate planning context that preserves the legacy that you want to preserve for your family. And having kind of focused on how important that was to me and how thankful I was for having that opportunity, it became evident to me that I felt like I was in a unique position to be able to help other people through that. So that's really, I think, where the passion comes from. My passion lies in just seeing, we're over in the Bluegrass Industrial Park, and we're surrounded by family businesses. I mean, there are so many, some are much bigger than you would have even imagined back when we moved in here in the 80s. And there's just, there are a lot of people out there that can really benefit from having a real conversation, learning to have a real open conversation with their family about what they want to happen. And I just think that's so important. And I think I'm in a unique position to be able to offer that.
I love that. Well, and it sounds too that you're in that unique opportunity to help particularly people that have family businesses, because you've navigated that. So, because when people hear estate planning, they may have different ideas of what that looks like. And now, do you service mostly just that population, or is your broader where you do other estate planning as well?
I do other estate planning as well. I've had single individuals. I've had, couples that come to me. I think where I take the most pleasure in my work is being able to really walk people through that succession planning, walk people through. But that really can be done with anybody's situation. I've had everything from tax planning situations that seem very cold, but they're important, to situations that involve preparing for and accommodating or looking at what the future is going to be like for a pet. And sometimes, and it's really all, regardless if it's a family business or it's an individual, it's really all about understanding what that person or that family's core values are and what they want to see happen in the future once they're no longer able to control that. So, but I do feel like I'm in a unique position to really work with small businesses. And that's where, if people talk about, the perfect client, I feel like that's where I can really offer an added value. So,
yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, because you do have the expertise on both sides. So, a small business owner that has a family business would definitely, or not even small, but just a family run business, could definitely be able to connect with your experience and how you can bring that to light. And I love that you talk about their values and bringing their vision, and use the word legacy a lot, where that showing them how to keep that, because so many people have put their heart and soul into their family business for legacy, and you understand that. And I just got chills while I was saying that. So that feels so much of like what your being is.
It feels like it feels like you become a little bit of a part of the family, and one thing that I have really noticed that people don't realize is some of these businesses start out very small, and the mindset is still in that small business. But by the time you get to, really sitting down and doing some estate planning, we're dealing with some much larger businesses at much larger values than a lot of people ever dreamed that their business would be. And I find it really rewarding and interesting for someone to sit down with a small business owner who's built it from the ground up and let them see them reflect on what they've actually built. And that's exciting to me. And, that's what I hope for myself and my family and my kids. And that's a really exciting moment where I really love what I do.
Oh, I can imagine it would be, because it's almost like we talked about just a little bit ago, that pause And when you
Yeah.
pause, then you actually get to see things. But oftentimes we don't take that time. So you're almost like and for lack of a better word, like scrapbooking, kind of like taking them through the journey of like, do you remember back when we did this? And then not that you did it, but you're taking them on their journey of where they've come from. So for somebody that's listening that maybe that they're like, that's me. I have that family business. We have not even stopped to slow down to even do this. At what point in their journey do you want to have that meeting? And should they be considering hiring somebody like what your services are?
Well, I think estate planning is something that you need to review every once in a while. So there's not really a time that's too early to start planning. Um, it is just the nature of my job that I'm consistently thinking of the things that could go wrong. Some of the scenarios are far-fetched, but there's really not a time that's too early to start thinking about that. There's many reasons to do your estate planning early on, but it's something that really does need to be revisited when you have a real life change. If you have children, if you see your business grow substantially. And what I aim to do is to be able to start working with small business owners early on and continue to be a resource for them over the years as they grow, where they don't have to go back and, really be understood a second time, where they can have that contact and reminders, just plain reminders that they need to relook at it, take a look at everything again, because that's easy. It's real easy to let that get lost in the shuffle. So a short answer, there's not really a time that's too early.
No, I think that's great. And we do need those gentle reminders because we'll put it on the back burner and then a catastrophe happens and you think it won't happen. And then if you don't have a plan in place, then you're really leaving it to chance or to people that and what I've seen, and maybe this might be your experience too, just what drama it can cause on the back end and how it can affect a legacy of a family and really tank, or I can't think of the better word, but really impact what you've created just by not doing this on the front end.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm an advocate to my clients for really sitting down and having that family conversation, being open about your estate planning. I've done enough probate. I do probate work as well, which is, if anybody doesn't know, it's the process after someone passes away. I've seen enough probate work and probate litigation, primarily back at the law firm, for me to understand how things can arise if you're not open. One of the things that I think there's a little bit of a misconception of is every probate litigation, every estate dispute that people hear of, immediately they think it's all about the money. But a lot of times it's really about a miscommunication about what mom or dad wanted to do. It's not necessarily about, getting more or being money hungry. I think there's communication with your family about your wishes and putting those in writing as you communicated to them is something that I'm a real advocate for.
No, I love that. I think that keeps the families bonded and not disrupted when you have that clear, like you said, clear communication is everything. Clear communication on the front end, man, even better, right? To be able to have those in, especially if it's in a moment where it's not already heated, like there isn't already trauma going on, like an illness or the business doing whatever. Like if there's a catastrophe going on, it makes the communication even more challenging versus doing it on the front end and adding to it as things build. I can imagine can really reduce the amount of drama on the backside.
Yeah, and on the backside of when you get into probate, one of the things that I realize, and I hope that most estate planning and probate attorneys realize is that people are really experiencing a large level of trauma at that time. It is not, you're not necessarily getting, someone at their very best or in their best state of mind at that time. And that's another thing that's really important to remember. It's, beyond just creating and maintaining your legacy. I view estate planning as a gift that you can give your children or spouse, you know, so that they're not faced with that extra trauma, extra work during one of the toughest times of their lives.
Absolutely. No, it truly is a gift. That pre-planning is a gift to everybody involved. And I love, we're wrapping up near the end, but I love that so much of what you've shared today, that thread is legacy, is family, is communication, is, doing all this on the front end tremendously helps everybody on the back end, on that probate side, on that other, when they really want to heal, they really want to grieve, they want to do all these things, and they truly, because I have trauma recovery in my background as far as being a coach, so I see those impacts on the other side of it, and how we really need support. And when you are in a place that you can do that now. Don't put that off till the end.
Yes.
Really do that now. And we're seeing how our climate, both financially and what's going on in the world culturally, there is no right time. The time is now to make these changes. So we really appreciate you coming on and sharing about your businesses and sharing about, being a parent and also doing this and delegating and being a woman in business and how we show up for ourselves. All these things are so important. And I'm sure anybody that's listening today will have gotten a good nugget or planted a seed to go, oh, I probably should look at that. I'm ready to go next. But before I let us go, I got two questions for you. One is what book are you reading or thing that's inspiring you lately? And then two, let us know how we can get connected to you. Where do they find you? And we'll also put a lot of that in the show notes too.
Okay, awesome. Yes. Let's see. The last book I finished was called Lessons in Chemistry, Bonnie Garmus. And the reason this book impacted me is because it was really a look. It wasn't an individual just giving someone else information about what worked for them or what they think women should do in the workplace or generalizing every woman. It was really a story about a woman, a fictitious woman who had, in her entire career, and how her relationship with people at work had been built, and how her relationship with her husband, who was also in the chemistry industry, had impacted her career. And it was really an individualized story, because I think that we're all different. We're all going to experience being a woman in the workplace, a woman as a business owner differently. And I think it's important to remember that. And I really, really enjoyed that book for that reason. In order to get a hold of me, you can reach out to me on my website. It's sharpesquire.com. And I'm always available by email or phone. It's ryan@sharpesquire.com. I'm in the process of building my social media presence. It's, not something in the online door industry. It's not something, we're a lot different and it's really a different type of marketing than what I've ever done. So I'm working on building that social media presence. So hopefully we'll have some news to share with everyone in terms of social media and in terms of setting up some seminars where people can reach out to me. And I'll make sure to communicate that with everyone as they come along.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you coming on. And any final thoughts before we let you go? Anything that you're like, oh, I wish I would have shared this, or a little final nugget?
Yeah, I think, I guess one thing, and I'm sure there's lots of people who have said this, but I think as being a woman in multiple businesses and having multiple kids, we have 3, being a stepmom, I think there's just really never a time that there's going to be a complete balance. I'm not somebody that subscribes, at least I don't believe that I am smart enough to figure that one out. I'm sure lots of other people have done it much better than I have, but it's really a balance for me of what needs to get done that day, what is a priority that day, and timeliness. And with our, with a complete focus on core values on a regular basis. So I think that's the one thing I would leave behind. It's taken me a while to realize that. I started out really feeling like I could balance everything, and it really is just, some days you can give 50%, some days you can give 80. I feel the same with my marriage, and I guess that's what I would leave with.
I love that. Thank you. Yes, balance. It's the everything that so many of us try to go for. And I think I love your realistic approach to that of like it's not always accessible, but we can go for it. And it's ever changing, it's fluid,
Yeah.
it's not a concrete thing. So
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you everybody that is here to listen today. To please reach out to Ryan and let her know how you can help. You all can help each other in your business. And until then, let's keep unlocking your potential with the Wow Factor, and we will be back soon. We'll see you.
Thank you.